So should I increase my insurance?
On life?
When I was in school, we had a fellow from Thailand who came in and said, I lose my license. He said, oh, what have you done? He said, I don't know. And said, well, how long has it gone for? He says, how would I know? I lose it. He said, I can't find it. He says.
He actually lost it rather than have to take it from him.
Right.
You're sorry about that so far?
Yeah, yeah.
I judge my summer by how many times I've gotten to the ocean. It's a good summer so far.
That's what watched Davy's summer.
So the seas were a little rough though the last couple of days.
Actually, we sailed over from Northampton this morning.
Yeah.
And it was just a lovely sail.
Oh, so it wasn't bad at all?
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay.
Going over it was spirited.
Spirited.
No.
Good way to word it. Yeah, because Tuesday we were thinking of going to the ocean, but they had small craft advisories, 4 to 6, so we went to Squam Lake instead.
It was safer?
Yeah, a little. But we went out last week I went out with 2 buddies, 3 buddies, and we haven't kayaked together in over 2 years, and it was rough, and the winds were up, and we just said, oh, the hell with it, let's do it anyway.
Yeah, we kayaked.
Kayaked yesterday.
Tuesday, kayaked Wednesday, on Lylehaven, a place called the Basin.
Yeah, I've never been to one.
And it was windy.
Yeah, but the basin is just that.
Right.
Yeah, that's why they call it that. It's protected.
Right.
Yeah, the seals were there.
Oh, fun.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, neat. Yeah. Yeah, listen. Yeah, we were the other day at the ocean. We watched an eagle trying to get into an osprey's nest.
Really?
Yeah, oh man, and the 2 ospreys were chasing it.
Put some lights
It
on.
was kind of neat, the whole. I don't know if it was going for a young or because they were
Well,
already born.
Eagles are very good thieves.
Yeah.
They steal fish from Osprey.
Oh, well, maybe that was it. Where do I get a copy of the subdivision regulations? I know it's online and I can download what do we?
Yeah.
Is that something? Yeah. But I didn't want to download that many pieces of paper, but yeah, that.
I
Do
don't know
that.
if there's other copies
Okay.
of it.
Just do that.
I have one that I've had, well,
Yeah, for
You want me
like.
to see what's in the office? I can look right now.
No, that's all right.
You sure? I don't mind.
Unless you knew where they were.
They had to be on the shelf right there. I'll go check on it.
checking this, I don't know what's in that cabinet.
What?
Whether there's planning board stuff.
Yeah, that cabinet, but someone would have to have a key to it, but come on.
Well, I don't think I have a key to that one. Do we got a key to that one?
You know, Dick. I just wanted a copy. Because I was reading over the hard changes, and I didn't make a copy for myself, but they didn't make sense to me without having, the.
Oh,
the
well, what
regulations
you
for
did
it.
was just track changes, so the
Yeah.
the original is there.
There, okay.
And if she's saying to delete something, it's got a line through it.
Right, I saw that.
And if it's in red, it's to be added.
Yeah.
And anything else is the original document.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to see everything.
Yeah.
So, one other thing, so can we, and just a quick question, can we, we approved a subdivision and last 2 years ago or a year ago, and it was a 4-house subdivision up near Alpine, up that way.
Okay.
And part of it was that they were gonna keep, the property in common around it. But they went in and they just clear cut it. And no, did we expect that? Is there any way to stop someone from doing that? I know not in our regulation, but can we?
Well, if it's their common land, then it is controlled by
Yeah.
them, if they have an
Yeah.
association.
But do we want that? In other words,
But,
you know.
you know, it's,
can
any
we-
landowner can do what he wants with his land, if he wants to clear cut it.
But even like in a cluster development like that, where we, it's common land, and we approved it, and do we, in other words, can we have any control over
I don't think so.
someone coming in and clear cutting it?
No, your current regulations do not restrict.
Well, I know the current ones, but can we do it?
Well, then you get into a kind of messy area as to what are you gonna permit, what you're not gonna permit if somebody wants to have a wood lot and wants to get some money from the wood.
If it's a-
You need an RSA to authorize it.
Right.
And I don't know of one.
If there is one, okay, that's what I'm asking probably. Is there any way to do it? Yeah, just in a subdivision, do we really want them coming in and clear cutting 10 acres and putting in 5 houses?
It's true.
It's kind of a shame.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I just wondered, is there, yeah, so you need an RSA to have
Yeah, I mean,
it.
there's RSAs that cover around waterways and things like that, but not
That-
necessarily.
The only way you have control on that is when it came before the planning board and you were looking at the association guidelines, their bylaws. And you can have, in the bylaws to say that you only cut, I mean, you can
So many
specify.
percent or,
Usually it's a DBH.
yeah.
So you have to have so much basal area, large trees left, or
Yeah.
cutting only for views or.
Well, Conway does it, but they have, what is it, site plan review? Is that, right? In other words, if they,
Well, site plan review is usually for commercial.
for commercial, okay, not subdivision.
Yeah, but the government from Farm Bureau would like to control every little spot of water in the country.
Okay, that's water.
They are working
Yeah, well,
on
well,
it.
they're doing a good job at it, sure.
There was a file,
Oh, thanks.
planning board, but there was no subregulation in there, subdivision regulations in that.
Okay.
Just, okay. Now, there might be some clause, but I can't get out. I can find out for you tomorrow if you want me to. Okay.
Right, well, I'll call the planning board meeting to order.
Oh, no date,
Okay.
okay.
Right,
Oh, okay.
meeting of July 10th. And Dick, our chairman, is not able to come tonight, and so I, as vice chairman, are on the meeting. And we need a secretary.
Oh, you want me to do it? I will.
I'll take some notes.
Sure.
Betsy usually takes them and.
Yeah, and then we
she's
can,
not
I'll
here.
take notes and then review it in the film or send her whatever.
Okay. Thank you for volunteering. All right, I have copies of the agenda here, if anybody needs one. You have one?
Yep.
If you need it, and also a copy of the minutes from last meeting. Need that? So we've all gotten it emailed, or handled. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes, or do we read them all in?
I think I did.
Anyway, great.
I'll wait a few moments if anyone has any corrections to the minutes. Just call it out if you see something.
Yes, speak your name, just. Okay, sorry, I didn't know that.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
One second.
3 seconds. Garrett made a motion, and you can pick whoever second you want.
I don't worry about it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The minutes from the June 12th meeting have been accepted as submitted. Okay. I guess I didn't take a roll call. People,
I
in-
got
you
I
got
got it.
you
yeah.
got it already? Okay. So there are some members of the public here. Are there any comments on items that aren't on the agenda tonight? Okay. So our first item is the survey questionnaire that we've been working on. And it's been emailed out to you. And I have several copies here, of which there's only no, this is not the version. It's the version that Betsy had that she sent to me, and I
This is what I got today. I
Good,
sent-
yes, that's the
sent-
Yeah, and I've got a copy of it.
Sarah, do you have an extra copy?
I have a copy of it before it was formatted to a more clear.
Today?
I've got a copy, you can make copies of it.
Would you all right with that?
Oh, because I had any questions that were possible. That's why I want it back.
Oh, it wasn't.
We can-
Yeah, whatever, I just want my question back.
You want this back?
Oh, okay.
No,
Jerry, if
let
you
me
don't
get-
mind, it's the same.
Oh,
The only difference is I reformatted the first 4 questions so that
Thank you,
it's
sir.
looks clear. So you can keep that. That has all the information, just the same. And you said you had a,
the question I wanted to ask.
yeah?
Well, it was just an idea I had, and down the bottom, the last thing we ask is additional comments or questions. I kind of wanted to format it. The question is, are there any zoning ordinance or regulations that you feel should be added, or existing regulations that you would like to see modified? And I guess it's more specific to see if anyone has any ideas on existing or, and I don't know. Before I ask that.
Good over here.
Sorry I'm late. I had a bear that was keeping me away from my car. The mom and 2 cubs have been floating around.
Oh,
Yeah.
we are
Questions?
lions of sound today by
Hey, Sarah.
fishing game.
Oh, yeah?
Do you know Andy said that he had contacted someone to be on the agenda for today?
Oh,
I don't know if because Dick isn't here or what.
okay, well, then, that was a public comment when I first, at the beginning of the meeting.
I have a public comment. I just have some questions. If now's the time for me to ask them.
Sure.
We should only take 5 minutes, probably.
Go ahead.
My parents left my sister and I our family home, and I'm trying to decide what to do with it. I'd like to hang on to it, but I may not to. We may not be able to financially. So I thought I would find out whether or not we could possibly subdivide and potentially sell a small piece of it, of the property, so that we could hang on to the main portion of the property and the house. I know from reading the zoning ordinance that you're required to have 200 feet of frontage per lot. We would not have that. There's 231 feet of frontage on Thornhill Road. There's 9.5 acres of property and a very, very long driveway. I'm unclear as to what we may or may not do. I'm familiar with the Bartlett zoning ordinance, but Jackson's I'm not familiar with. And just like to find out if there is something we could do with it. I don't want to develop it, because that's just not what I'm interested in doing. But I'm interested in finding out what could potentially be done. I do have the map, and I can show you how to run. And I think probably it will be very clear to you what the answers to my questions are. So there's Thornhill Road, and there's the 231 roughly feet. And then the long driveway that comes in to the house. So, well, my question would be whether we could use this driveway
That's fronted.
as frontage or as, maybe what I'd like to do is look at maybe subdividing and creating a small lot right here, 1 or 2 acres. We haven't surveyed it, I haven't even,
Investigate it.
not really, no, I want.
This is the first step.
This is the first step, exactly. Just don't know what we can and cannot do.
What's the topography? Is it steep, flat?
This is this is a hill, a small hill right here. Would make a nice place to put a house. This is the
Bottom
and
of
it goes
it.
down. This is the bottom of the hill. Is a brook that runs right up to here. Back up on top of a hill here and higher here. So this is the low spot, and this is the low spot goes just like that. So it goes down and back up. So this was the corner that we were considering. If there is something we could do with it, that would be the corner. And how we would go about that.
Your issue is frontage at
Yes.
this point, and also you'd have to make sure that you had sufficient soils for minimum lot size. That's
I
why I asked about the steepness, because very steep slopes are, any land that's very steep is not part of your minimum allotment.
How do we find out, is there a, some kind of schedule that tells you what the soils are going to be like, or do we dig it?
Well, there is a soils, Carroll County Soil Survey, which is actually aerial photo with the soils, the maps of the different soil types on it. And for something of this size, you probably you'd need to know what the slopes are, and for that you need topo survey.
Okay.
You may have to get.
The state has those on record, they're on RDO.
And what is that called? The map that
Well,
for soil samples?
Carroll County Soil Survey.
Okay.
Jared, can you help?
Mentioning the soil survey, your person that did the build-out analysis recommended that our soil section is severely out of date and no one uses it anymore.
We know that, and it's on our
to-do list.
Our to-do list, yes,
Okay, good.
is to get that up to date.
But what about the frontage, though? He's going to overcome that. That's going to be the issue, I think, really.
Right.
That is the
Is an issue.
And that would be a
Frontage.
ZBA. have
Could
to
be
do that.
CBA, or if you upgraded your driveway to like a private road status.
holy
That-
moly.
We're luck on that end.
You have to have
Well, he's doing this because he needs, he says he
Information.
may not be able to afford to keep it, so that goes out of affording to keep it, probably.
Except that then you'd have some land that you could sell off, as you're suggesting. You might be able to sell a parcel that could help you make the road work affordable.
But he wouldn't have to have that done before he could.
ZBA. Right?
There are other possibilities since we're going to be doing possibly, like we're just changing some of the zoning ordinances, make it 100-foot frontage so people can do things like this rather than the 200-foot frontage. Bartlett has 100-foot frontage.
We're not changing to what we were talking about earlier in the year. We've been talking all along for a couple of years about putting it inside our subdivision regulations so that we could, this is a situation. Could-
Jared?
Is that, what you're referring to as 674, and that's been before the ZBA 3 times now. We've approved it all 3 times. There's 3 methods to deal with this. One, the planning board can accept it as a road, plat it as a road.
Right.
The selectmen can accept it as a road, or it can go to the ZBA.
Right.
ZBA has approved all of them so far.
Variance.
All subdivisions.
Yes.
Yeah.
And where it's just the frontage has
Yes.
been an issue?
Yes,
Anything else is
674
fine?
requires the 200 feet.
Yeah.
We are one of the few towns in the state that enforces that.
Okay. So there's your avenue.
It's really not meant for a town like Jackson, it's meant for.
So we're just talking about just
Where you have-
investigating making that into a
You
private
know,
road.
100 lot subdivision.
Just lose here.
I don't think we're gonna be able to do that. I don't think we can afford to build a road.
No, the road would be
No,
pretty
that-
cost prohibitive.
Particularly,
Yeah, well, I would just, you want to know what options are, and obviously.
yeah.
Who's your butter above you?
You know what?
There's a Helen Kern up here.
Yeah, those are, this is an old map,
Oh.
so I'm not even 100%
Oh.
certain who the abutters are.
Or who is your abutter?
No, you don't need him?
Here.
This could be,
Mylan?
that could be him.
Is Mylan?
What you might want to
Up the
investigate.
hill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a good man, good job. He's
The
got-
other thing is to do a land exchange.
Yeah.
You
Somebody
could do
see.
it just to change your line, I don't, depend.
Boundary adjustment,
Boundary adjustment, and that's fairly straightforward.
and that's cheap,
If you do a
relatively
boundary-
speaking.
There, so what we would be doing is maybe like trading a
Exactly.
piece here for
Well,
Piece
it looks, well,
there.
it looks like your line, I assume it's a stone wall,
it is.
and I don't know what size his lot is, but you could just change that line so that you would gain your 70 feet that you needed here,
Yes.
and then
Give him
Give
something on
him-
the other end.
give him the same amount of acreage on the other side. So you just.
That would probably be your best shot, Andy, to be quite honest, because you're, that 200 feet, I mean, yeah, the ZBA might approve it, but it's, you know, it's a flip of the coin, really, you don't know until you go to them.
Is it also an option here that you could do something like
Who's,
that?
who's down below there, who's the
I
other?
think there's I don't know them. I'm not
Is it Thornhill or the
Fast
fire department guy from
that,
the, I think it's him.
yeah.
What's it say there, Sarah?
Yeah.
If you look at the tax maps, you'll see the lots
That's
laid out of there next
Yeah.
to you, and you'll see the frontage and who has what.
So you can get that information right out here in the hallway.
All right.
So that would probably be your first bet, is to see who your abutters are on
Yes.
either side,
Yes.
and have a conversation with them,
Sure.
and do,
So that would be the first, my first step. See if we can-
Right.
That's the most practical, I think.
Yes,
Try in Mylan, I went first.
yes,
He's a,
yeah, okay. And I want to meet my parents, have a good relationship with them. I don't know, I'm not sure what kind of relationship there was here. So let's say that failed, that option failed. My next step, ZBA, and that would be
well,
for,
what you'd have to do is to then develop your plan and bring it to the planning board, and then we would have, because it didn't have the frontage, then we would not be able to approve it, and then you would appeal to the ZBA.
okay.
So
And-
you'd have to go through the subdivision process.
The plan, what should the plan include?
Shall we give you a copy of
Yeah.
the subdivision
Sure.
regulations?
Sure.
Actually, they're online.
Online,
Yeah.
I've seen them.
Great.
You don't understand.
If you speak to Thorne also,
You don't understand it.
That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
and also Andy, if you speak to Thorne, they'll be able to help you out
Okay.
greatly. They'll,
Either Thorn or Ramanujan or one of
well,
them.
they did the drawings.
I did it, I'd go
Yeah,
there.
go to Thorn.
Yeah, it's an 11-acre lot above you.
Okay.
So
Thank
that's
you.
about a
400 and some odd feet of frontage, so they have plenty of frontage, and they can't use all 450 feet if they're gonna subdivide.
Who's that, Mylan?
I don't know, I didn't see the name.
Yeah. Thank you.
Take a look at the map and write down the two lots next to you.
Yeah, it's on the thing out there. We can help you with that if you stop in sometime.
Yeah,
In
okay,
the office, the ladies can help me, or Julie.
okay. Can I ask about this potential 100 feet of frontage? Is that something you're thinking about changing?
Discussed
Possibly
it,
to-
discussed it.
Don't hold your breath.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
if
mean,
you were to
if
wait,
you-
you might grow very old.
He already is old.
We don't hold record.
I was the youngest in my group today.
Okay.
Doing some road work on my road, and one of my neighbors said, "You're the baby here." That's right. How does that make you feel? I said. Okay, so I develop a plan, bring it back to the planning board and get denied,
Right, and then go to the
and then I go to the ZBA.
ZBA.
And at that point, you'd probably also,
Don't be offended we get denied.
No, I understand, I understand.
you'd want to have
Understand the
completed your
process.
soils work very likely if you're, if there's going to be some sort of parcel exchange, I would expect you might need at least a review of it just to be certain there's no problem with lack of sufficient soils.
You would also have to have the soils to do the subdivision, because if you're carving up a small lot, then it has to be shown that that has sufficient, that it meets the minimum size
Okay,
because of the soils.
For the
And that's, your engineer can help you on that.
all right.
And if he's simply doing an exchange of land, he probably may not need it, right? Because.
Depends how much
Well,
land.
enough-
No, you won't need it for the boundary line adjustments,
Right.
you would for the subdivision.
Yeah, so for the boundary line adjustment, you've got enough acreage most likely
Yes,
for that to be able to be approved.
okay,
Okay.
okay.
That would be my suggestion, is to go for the boundary line adjustment.
Yeah,
I think that would be more probable.
That's the least expensive way.
okay, yeah, that sounds good. I have one more question, and that was, somebody mentioned a PUD. And.
Pardon?
What is that?
Planned unit
Planning development.
No.
Development.
Yeah,
How would that work?
Very useful.
We do have a few, and I am not real clear on what the regulations are.
I was told that you might be able to share, put two houses, for instance, in one driveway.
Right, if you have sufficient frontage, you can, our ordinance will allow you to do that without a problem. You can have two homes on a shared driveway.
Yeah,
Can we do it right off of here then?
that's,
Share a driveway, there's 200 feet, and have a shared driveway over yours?
that's kind of what I
No.
was thinking was.
You need two.
This would be a perfect
200.
place actually
Yes.
to
share.
tee off right
Well,
here.
Exactly,
Would be
no,
most likely.
each lot needs to.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying, you still need the 400.
Yeah,
Need
you're
400
right.
frontage.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd need more frontage.
What
But you
if it-
wouldn't have to build a new road, you could just take a driveway on.
Yeah, but
Could it be
that maybe would
200
not help.
feet of the driveway?
No, it has to be a
Now,
road.
then it have to be a town.
Then it has to be a
acceptable
road.
to town
Town road.
standards.
Town standards.
Right.
Road, yeah.
And that's state standards,
Right.
so it's, you're building a
Okay.
highway.
Right, okay. I don't want to build a highway. Okay,
Now, just a second.
Yeah.
Now, let's just say that he does get the 200 foot of frontage across here
Mhm.
and puts a driveway up here. He has 9 acres up here, and if the soil allows it, could he by any chance then put another 2 properties on this lot?
No. Still need 600, you need 200 for each lot, right?
Yeah,
200 for each lot.
Oh,
yeah.
sorry about that.
all right.
What do you have now for frontage?
About 231 feet.
Said 253 on the map,
It did?
So yeah,
Okay.
so that's less, you have to swap.
you need 147 feet of,
253, okay, on this map.
which is a lot.
Sure.
All right, I'll take a look at that.
That's gonna be hard to get from a neighbor.
140 something,
Yeah, that's a
47.
lot of frontage. Good luck.
But he's got a lot of frontage. I mean, he's got 400 some odd feet of frontage.
Yeah,
and
but
it's-
he'll never be able to subdivide, you
I don't know
know.
how much it
Yeah.
is.
But it's gonna be difficult, but give it a shot. Yeah. I mean, they might be in a situation where they, never want to.
Mm.
You don't know till you asked.
And if it ends up that I come back to the ZBA, what would they be requiring us to do to allow this? Would it just be a variance?
Yeah, you would be asking for a variance,
Okay.
and then you'd have to meet the
Criteria, there's this long list of dues.
5.
Yeah, I think you'll
But
find
for the
it.
ZBA,
Yeah.
Thorn
there's
has
really only 7.
Oh, I'm sorry, 7, sorry. I was thinking the subdivision.
There's 7.
I was thinking the subdivision. The subdivision has
There's
a lot.
7 problems for the ZBA.
Right, sorry. I was thinking the subdivision.
The one that is always a tough one is a hardship, but in the last court cases, the hardship is sort of look the other way.
Yes.
So Andy, one of the things to do, I think, is to look in our zoning ordinance, and it gives the, I believe, the criteria that the ZBA looks at, right near the end.
Do you have a zoning ordinance?
Although it doesn't list all the specifics, does it? That's right, I think we omitted them
They were
because the RSAs have them, so we decided not to keep them in ours. Okay.
Well, the RSA's don't change, the court cases change.
Right. Okay.
All right. Great. Well, that
We'll
was,
figure it out.
that was step one.
The fact that this is the one thing that comes up to the ZBA more often than not, that should be sort of a turn on the switch for everyone,
Hmm.
that maybe the 200 feet,
Needs to be changed.
you should have a look at it.
It's interesting, I remember speaking, when we first moved to town, I spoke with your dad about getting a variance on something, and he said, we almost never grant variances.
Yeah,
They do now.
So times have changed a bit.
I think he was the chairman of the ZBA.
He was for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some of his knowledge may have rubbed off on you.
Well, I know it's good to play by the rules.
Yes.
So,
The two things that the ZBA worries about, does it affect adjoining property values? Does it tend to fit within the spirit of the law? And is your lot unique in some sense? And is there a hardship? And in the last 5 times we've done 674, we've approved all.
Okay. All right, that's encouraging. All right, well, appreciate everybody's time. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good. We'll talk about it.
Talk to you.
All right, thanks for everybody. Thank you very much. I'm going to take a look at
Take
this
care.
map on my way out.
Well, I apologize for being late.
Michael Hunter. That's the top of Mount Washington, they just put him
Oh, he's there?
up there. He's there,
Oh,
same car.
oh.
Mike, the Michael on the top of
Oh,
him.
that's nice.
He's all hand carved in wood. There he is.
Okay, well, getting back to the survey. Larry just.
Yeah, I was
made a
just wondering if
suggestion.
down the bottom, the last thing, it just says additional comments. If we wanted to ask, are there any zoning ordinance or regulations that you feel you should be added, or existing regulations that you would like to see modified? And that's just a more direct question. We've asked a whole bunch of, would you like to see this, would you like to see that, would you like to see this? This just kind of opens it up and directs it to see if anyone, is there an ordinance or, something they want to protect or modify, or, and just thought it might be a more direct, question that we really haven't asked. Yeah, just see if you want to ask that with the comments. So it asks, do you want to, add a zoning or regulation, or do you want to modify any existing ones? And then maybe it will get people to hone in on something that they're, one that bothers them or one that they want to see happen.
I love that. Being in the offices there every day. See that? A lot of people come to the window and ask questions about the zoning orders that they just don't understand. And the girls have a hard time figuring it out, and everybody else has a hard time figuring it out. So I think one of the questions has to do with the zoning orders. We need to figure out how to explain it better, and ask the townspeople what their questions are on it.
All right, how do people feel about this?
Did you catch that, John, or not?
No, I missed that,
Yeah.
sorry.
I just down the very end of the survey, where we just say additional comments or questions, I just wanted to hone in on, are there any zoning ordinances or regulations that you feel should be added, or existing regulations that you would like to see modified?
Yeah.
And it just makes it more specific to the zoning ordinances that we're, because I hope after we do the master plan, we're gonna, go back and, relook at our subdivision regulations or our zoning and see
Right.
if we should.
Well, that's what we're supposed to do, they're supposed to all be in
Yeah.
line. And
Exactly.
planning board hasn't really done a, microscopic view of it. Check it out.
I think it would be nice to put it on.
Anybody against it?
Nope.
We want input, right? That's the point.
Yeah.
Makes it difficult to tabulate, but that doesn't mean
Well,
we
no,
shouldn't
that-
have it.
I'd be surprised at how many people are actually going to reply. I mean, there's,
Well, that's
Right, well, that just comes in the comment section,
Yeah.
and I would then recommend that we
But
scooch up the font a bit to give them a little bit more room.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is this going to be a one-page survey, or
That's what we have,
Yeah.
good? You can keep it that way.
right.
Yeah.
I didn't print it out. You had an extra
You
copy?
looked at it?
I did look at it, but I didn't print it
So it's
out.
gonna be on the back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, front to back. So that was my only concern. I think it's good that we do get some feedback on that, but I'm gonna give them room to.
Oh, that's right, they won't even have a back of the page to write on.
Right.
Well, but,
Yeah.
know,
Well, they could
for
add-
example,
Maybe
here,
it's
we shortened some of the-
Suggest attaching an extra page if they want to.
Right.
Yeah, the question number 8, I think it is, has a lot of space, so maybe by compressing it a little bit.
Yeah, what you can do is compress this way so your
Yeah.
lines can get longer and you can
Exactly.
get up here.
Yep,
And we may be able to reword that a little bit
yep.
to
To make
get
sure-
that onto one line.
Yep, great.
And actually, you can move it over here.
Actually, if all of a sudden like 20 people all said one zoning ordinance or one thing, then, you'd be able to tabulate that.
Yeah.
Right.
And besides,
Well,
it
you're
is
asking
difficult,
for.
it's something we need to know.
Definitely.
That's good.
Okay, so I guess, Betsy, if you
Yep.
want to add that?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yep,
and then
maybe
maybe
you
you
can
can
help
have a,
yep, and you can help me if I have trouble with spacing, you can reword and we'll make more space.
And then the cover letter, I had one little thing on that. And
what's the next? Cover letter, if anybody needs a copy of it, we've got some extra.
the only thing, what we haven't done, but I don't know how we would do it, is we've never mentioned anywhere in here that we had this $8,000 build-out analysis. And we, but without getting wordy, which no one will read, how do we do that, In other words, the 20 or 30 people that came, they know, but
But is this the venue to talk about that?
yeah, I don't know, that's what I'm saying, we've never mentioned it in this. Yeah.
But my question would be, does it need to be mentioned here? Because what we're trying to do is to get more
Just opinion
opinion, and a couple of our questions are stemming from
from it.
the build-out as far as Tara's
The ones
thought
that
that
he-
maybe we should have a larger district, which is now more intensely developed to allow more businesses in that. So that's where the question about encouraging.
Yeah, I know we all know that, but nobody else does.
I think
Yeah.
it will come out, as we get, so here, this is the information we got from the build-out, this is the information we got from the survey, this is how we're putting it together in the master plan. It would come out maybe in a public, because we'll have to have a public hearing anyway. Even though, so with the master plan, we have to have a public hearing, but then the planning board votes as to whether to adopt it or not. It does not go before the whole time.
They just get to comment and maybe edit.
Right. And so comment and the planning board can take their comments under advisement.
And then on the cover letter, it says the Jackson Planning Board is in the process of updating the Jackson Master Plan, which was last revised in 2003. And I didn't know if we should add it. I kind of want to add, and is required by state law to be updated every 10 years.
It's not, it's recommended.
Well, not required, then recommended by state law to be
This is
updated.
recommended to have it looked every 5 to 10 years. But
Do we want to throw that line in there just so that they know why we're doing it and that this is something all towns do?
Wouldn't hurt.
that, I might be more generic in saying, Master Vice and the state recommends that it be updated periodically, or, because here we are, 11 years out.
Well, approximately 10 years, we could use approximately. So it's
Well-
recommended by state law to update approximately every 10 years or something like, throw that in there, just so that.
Which is it?
Because I just wondered if people are going to be like, why are we doing this? Because we have to. But does everyone know that? I don't know, just a thought, if you
Yeah.
want to add that.
I think it's a good idea, like, people will want to know why are we doing this.
No, you could just tell them how to.
Yeah.
Well, okay, how about Jackson Planning Board's in the process of, is the state, in the state required updating of the
Okay,
master
yeah,
plan?
that would do it. That would do it. So it's, so they know this, this is something we have to do.
Right.
This isn't, if we had nothing better to do and thought, well, it's a good time to do a survey. Quick question, Jackson NH Planning at Gmail, where is that? Where does that go to?
Oh, it would be for, it would be set up so that any person who's the planning board chair or anybody could access it. I mean, do a password that you could share.
Oh, so this doesn't exist now, we're going to set it
I
up?
just set it up 2 nights ago.
Oh, on your computer? So that,
Well, just
yeah.
on Gmail.
Oh, okay.
So, the password right now is just P.O. Box, I think it's P.O. Box 252 or something or other. And it would be something that any planning board member would be able to access.
I was just wondering
Yeah.
if we already had a, I didn't know we had a
Well, actually,
a web address, that's why I was like, oh, we have one?
when Scott was chair, there was an email address that was on the computer, it was on the jacksonvillage.net. And I didn't remember anything about what the address was or what the password was or
Yeah, that's
anything.
right. Yeah, we did set
Scott told me
something up.
ages ago.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I couldn't reach Scott, so I set that up just so I'd have something that I could put
Yeah.
on the letter. But I think it used to be something that people could email the planning board and just ask a question about something or other, and I think probably it's a smart way to go. But I think Dick
Doesn't use email.
is not terribly fond of computers.
He doesn't use email.
And so,
So, yeah.
I don't know if he had it taken off or what, so I don't know, but to me it makes sense.
He
to have
probably
something.
doesn't know it exists.
Well, it's
Because
no
I
longer
don't.
listed on the web,
Yeah, so.
so he may have said, please remove it.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, but I had no record of what any name was or password or anything, so.
I was just asking a question. I'd never
Yeah.
seen an email address for us.
Well, this is just starting out a new one, if we want to do it. It's not written in stone yet, I just put it in there in case we think it's a good plan.
It's a good idea.
Is this the cover letter we're talking about, right here, where it says?
Well, and it also, I think, is at the bottom of the survey, I'm not sure the final copy, but at one point, Phil Davies was recommending that people have alternate ways of getting it back to us, that they wouldn't have to mail. And some people may want to just scan it in and email it in. Some people may want to deposit it in a box here. I think almost any way people want to send it is very likely fine.
So in order to be able to go into Jackson, New Hampshire Planning at gmail.com, you have to have the code?
Yeah, I mean,
The password?
yeah, but anybody can email to it,
Right.
but just to collect the surveys,
Emails,
Oh, I understand that part,
Yeah.
but I'm asking, do we need to have a code, is what I'm asking.
you have to have a password if you're having a Gmail account or any account, probably.
what do you mean, to get it for us to go into?
Yeah.
For us to
Yeah.
go into it,
Right,
yes.
well, we
We do.
do.
Which is what?
Box 252.
Yeah,
Oh, 252.
Yeah, I think it's all
P.O.
caps.
box.
P.O. box with no spaces, 252.
Okay. That's what I was.
And right now, there's nothing on it except information from Gmail about how to manage their accounts or something.
Okay, okay. I just wasn't sure if that was the
Yeah,
correct.
she mentioned before. I missed the address. Thank you.
Okay.
okay. Jerry?
Have you discussed item 8 yet, sir?
We have, at the last meeting, we did extensive discussing of 8 and 9 and combined them into one and changed a bunch of things, but do you have further questions about them?
I have some comments on your item 8. The third one down, should zoning be changed to permit grandfathered inns and other businesses in their current non-conforming locations, allowing strike some expansion? I would strike the word some, because what does some mean?
Good point.
Yeah, we can get rid of,
In the
get rid
In
of
the,
words.
um,
That's good.
several further down, should Jackson encourage construction of lower cost for sale housing suitable for young families? I would consider,
Suitable.
should Jackson try to encourage construction of affordable housing suitable for families?
Okay,
Why should it be limited to young?
good point.
And the last item, should Jackson try to encourage construction of rental housing suitable for families? I understand what you're trying to do there. I would suggest that an easier way to do it would be, should Jackson encourage residential development? Or, next question, should Jackson discourage residential development? But the way you've done it is fine with what I suggested. You know, for your consideration, those changes.
Try to,
So we don't really have any way to discourage, right? I mean.
Well, I think the way you've asked it is okay, except strike try to.
Yes, I think that's a good point.
Encourage construction of housing suitable for families.
Mhm.
Yeah, good.
I think that's a good change.
I mean, lower cost is sort of a,
It's
you know,
not
dubious
so-
term,
Exactly.
and
It's like it's.
So you're saying
So,
encourage construction of rental housing?
well, then,
Affordable
similarly,
housing.
should Jackson strike try to encourage construction of rental housing suitable for families?
Not lower cost.
Right, not lower cost and not young.
And in a way, if somebody circles no or whatever, they're saying they wanted to discourage it,
Right, exactly.
recognizing, of course, that we really can't
Exactly,
discourage
and
it.
that's why I said, I think the way you've asked it is okay.
Yeah.
I just think the words lower cost, young, and try to are sort of,
Mhm.
Really good.
now so that means that these two,
Combine them into one.
combine them into one, just, should Jackson encourage construction of housing
suitable for families.
suitable for families? And so it would parentheses for sale or for rent?
Well, I think it's okay to ask it in two questions, it's clear that way.
All
Should
right,
Jackson-
would you- and
Should Jackson encourage construction of rental housing suitable for families?
so the first would be just housing suitable for families and rental.
So the one before it, I'm still unclear. Should
That be
Jackson
affordable?
encourage construction of, are
Yeah,
we still doing lower cost?
No.
We might say for sale housing.
For sale housing.
Should Jackson encourage construction
I'm sorry.
of housing
Okay.
suitable for families?
Only we might say for sale housing, to make it clear, because if we're gonna say rental below.
Yeah, I mean,
For sale or rental, why can't you put it?
Right,
If you want.
just have it one question.
Yeah.
I don't mind it for sale, I just, I think it's.
Well, the rental could be like a, you know, block house like my father used to own, had 7,
Yeah.
7 homes or 7 rental facilities in one building. I think that would be different than a home. I don't know if that would be
Yeah.
distinguished the 2, apartment houses. That's what I was trying to think
Yeah.
of. Thank you. So are you, in the first question, you're talking about homes. In the second home, are you talking about homes and rental apartments or that type of
Okay.
configuration? Or are you just talking about homes?
I think that would be for the planning board to decide after the question is answered. But if people want to encourage rental properties for families, then how would you define that? How would you look at it?
Well, I would think a home as a rental property, like, somebody could rent their house out, is totally different than an apartment building,
Well,
so.
maybe that's the distinction to draw, so on the
Right,
first
that's what I'm
question, you could say
saying.
for sale or for rental, and then the second question should be
How about,
apartments.
just the
Rental
first
apartments.
one be, should Jackson encourage construction of housing suitable for families? And the
Sure.
second would be, Jackson encourage construction of rental units suitable for families.
That's fine, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's.
Because a rental unit could be anything.
And
Yeah, that-
it could be in a mother-in-law apartment. or,
Exactly.
That's
Attached
better
or
wording.
detached, or
Very
it
well
could be a
done.
whole nother
Yep.
building.
I'm satisfied.
So the last question, the last one was units.
Okay, the first one, and then my question would be, do you want to have, in the first one, affordable housing or just housing?
I think just housing is what people are saying.
Okay.
I would, I mean, you can do what you're gonna do, but my recommendation is to strike lower costs, not think of it as affordable. Just, the question is really, do we in Jackson want to encourage the construction of residential properties?
And how would we do that, even if it would?
Well, there's lots of ways you could do it.
Besides changing
We have,
the,
and I'm really overstepping my bounds here, but we have in Jackson a restrictive.
yeah. So we would have to change the zoning laws.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Under the present
We
laws.
We just talked about tonight, the most
That's one point.
brought before us at the
The foot.
ZBA is the 200-foot frontage.
Mhm.
The other thing is that the state is in the business of approving septic systems. And they are very conservative in their approval of septic systems and their definition of gallons per unit. We have a much more restrictive approval system for septic systems. In other words, if we wanted to be less restrictive, we would get out of the business of approving septic systems. Let the state do it. They do it anyway.
That's right.
They did mine.
They do, really. If it doesn't pass them, it doesn't go.
I mean, this started in the 70s. I mean, think of New England villages, what they're like. Houses are close together and they're, in a row. You think of Wiscasset. Think of the cutest New England villages you can think of. They're not houses that are 400 feet apart with 200-foot frontages and that. I mean, it's.
It's true, they say that now people who want to see nice.
So we have
villages
what
go
used to be called
Disney
snob
World.
zoning.
See them there.
You still do.
So there's lots of things that we could do to encourage. I mean, the buzzword that nobody likes to talk about is higher density. Do you want to prove higher density or not? That's how you make land affordable. Like this young fellow was in tonight, wanted to subdivide his land. 9.5 acres costs X. 4 lots on 9.5 acres costs X minus 4.5, whatever that number is.
Coming back to the survey, just looking up at the second item in number 8, should zoning be changed from grandfathered inns and other businesses? How about just saying grandfathered businesses in their current or grandfathered non-conforming businesses?
Okay.
Sounds good.
Allowing its for expansion. But what's non-conforming about them is their location. So we probably should keep that in.
Right.
Because that's what
Yeah,
we're
and
saying.
so I'm
Okay.
wondering, to what extent people are gonna understand what non-conforming means? Do you think that's a problem with
Yeah, the only, yeah,
They
the ends,
won't know.
yeah, the ends at least start thinking of specific ones, but that also is the ski area,
I'll put my 2 cents in again if I might.
You're out of 2 cents, aren't you?
The term grandfather now is not accepted by the courts. They don't use the word grandfather.
What do they use?
anymore. A business is either conforming or a
Non-conforming.
residence, a property is either conforming or non-conforming. And so the question, though few will understand it, I think, should businesses in non-conforming locations be allowed to expand? I mean,
This is pretty close.
yeah, I mean, I have a problem with it.
Yeah, just getting
It's
rid
just,
of
I would
the
strike the word some.
Yes.
Yeah,
What does
some is all
Yeah.
indefinite.
Well, and ins and other, so it's just grandfathered businesses and they're current.
But we can't use grandfather technically.
No,
Well,
Existing.
it
can't.
doesn't
You-
exist.
Well, you can use it, I mean.
Well,
I think people would understand grandfather
People will understand,
conforming.
they will understand it, but it's
Yeah.
not a term.
It's not a legal term.
Yeah, but that's okay. We're
I-
not, this is
I
not a
would say-
legal document. This,
True.
we're trying to get people's opinions and what,
Yeah, the only word I have a problem there is some.
yeah,
Okay.
they understand grandfather.
if you put the quotes around grandfather instead of permit.
Yeah,
That's a
fine.
good idea.
Yeah,
Oh, good idea.
and, yeah, and nobody will know what that means anyway.
Oh, people do.
I mean, I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference on that one.
By the way, we have never not allowed that.
What do you mean, expansion?
But every time that I can think of it, in the last 38 years, that a non-conforming business has applied for expansion has been permitted.
Well, and I think that we had a problem where the little word "not" was left out.
I mean, most recently, I'm thinking of Christmas Farm Inn.
I was just gonna say, Christmas Farm Inn, got a gazillion houses up there now.
Carter Notch Inn, under the Dunbar, or
So we put in, about 2 years ago, we put in this little clause saying, provided that the change does not make the structure more non-conforming in any way. So if Christmas Farm Inn had come forward under that.
but every time, and that's the other thing. Every time a non-conforming business expands, they're
It goes in.
making their business, or they're
Right.
making their property
More.
more non-conforming.
That's right, and I thought that we were supposed to not have variances go to that. We're saying, and granted, we can't control what a variance is.
Tell me when, in Jackson, we have not permitted a non-conforming use to expand.
Okay, Brian Burns' house, at the
I'm
bottom.
talking about businesses. You're
Yeah,
talking
These
about-
are
You're talking
businesses,
about
they
businesses.
get exactly what they want.
Yeah, well, I think that they shouldn't. I'm
Well-
not on the ZBA or whatever, but I think that this has been on the books for a while, that we don't want it to be non-conforming. I know when Larry Bama was trying to expand his place, he was told he couldn't. And actually also with Glenn and Gwen and, what's his name, Vosberg, Steve Vosberg, they tried to expand their place. Granted, they're not businesses. So I don't really
I thought we were
know.
talking, I thought we were talking about businesses.
Well-
Larry Bama's not non-conforming, though.
His house was non-conforming.
Oh, his house.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
business.
So the ZBA just approved an expansion of a non-conforming residence.
And they did let them.
I mean,
Well, I mean, I can't speak to what the ZBA is doing, but I'm not sure if they're,
that's my point, is that
paying attention.
if you look at what the ZBA does, that is that's a switch in my mind as to what the planning board should look at. In other words, if the same thing is coming up time and time and time again, and it keeps getting approved, then somebody ought to say, maybe we ought to change that.
and when Dave Urey was a member of both the ZBA and the planning board, he would bring to us things saying, we've seen 8 of these cases or 3 of these cases or whatever, the ZBA would like to have you consider this change. And that kind of communication is great, so we need somebody who's willing to step forward and we recommend these changes. And maybe that's something the ZBA ought to take up and appoint somebody to come and present to us.
Getting back to that, permitting grandfathered, I think it's not so much allowing for expansion as the fact that we do have a few businesses that are allowed to be in the rural residential and no new ones are allowed. And I think it's more a case of let's call a spade, and if you say that it's okay to have an inn or a ski area in the rural residential area, then it should be okay. And if you want businesses in that part of town, then let's have that as part of the zoning. I think at least that was my take on the coming from what Tara Banford was saying and looking at what we have. So you've got some non-conforming businesses, and they just happen to slip in, and they're there, and they sort of have the monopoly on it. Nobody else can come in.
And in many instances, they're pretty valuable to us.
Oh, yeah, they're extremely valuable to us. It's our
Well, but
whole
those have
town.
been there for years too.
Right.
Before they ever dreamed of.
But do we want to keep making it difficult for
For
them
them.
to be
Yes.
able to do something? Maybe we don't.
But I
Maybe
find,
not.
what I have, I don't mind zoning if everybody's treated equally, but they aren't. And that's the facts.
Well,
I know.
they should be treated equally
Well, they're not.
except where ZBA or something or other approval is given. I can understand that, but basically, things should be pretty much the way they're.
It doesn't work that way time and time again. I've seen it if I like it,
Well,
fine.
we're not here tonight to change the
Well,
zoning,
I'm just,
even though we should.
Well, I guess, Sarah, getting back to the
we're
question,
discussing.
so if when the person gets this in the mail and they read this question, are they going to be able to make sense of what the question's talking about? That's really
That's what it comes down to.
Well, that's what we're trying to do. Is
right. I'm just
make
saying.
sense,
That, I mean, the more I'm talking about things I forgot was actually I'm getting more confused because it's just a limited handful of businesses we're talking about.
You just
I'm saying,
eliminate it?
no, I'm saying there's a limited handful of businesses that pertain to this question.
But there's quite a few of them, actually.
Yeah.
That's just it. Our town has a pretty large number of non-conforming businesses. And go down the line, Eagle Mountain, Carter Notch, Black Mountain, Christmas Farm. They're huge.
Yeah.
They're big. They're our biggest businesses in town, and they're all non-conforming. And that's what Tara was saying is, geez, should they be? Do you really want them to be in that position? But
It'd be one thing if they weren't things that we wanted to continue, that we thought they ought to
Yeah,
go out
right.
of business, but we don't in general.
these are,
And you can't do spots on them.
yeah, they're compatible.
Right.
So it's something we need to look at down the line. But for tonight, we need to get the question down to what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying
Is it
it's-
understandable?
Yeah.
And we understand it because we're on the planning board. But should
What kind of
somebody-
response would you get? Think about what would you get for that? Yes or no, right? Are you in favor of,
Oh, well, it's desirable, undesirable, or no opinion.
are those the outcomes you want?
Well, that's the question. That's what we've given them a choice.
Right, but should it be open-ended? I don't know. I'm just saying, it's,
Yeah.
I mean, who would be against it? Who would be for it? I don't know if there's a reason for that question, I guess. Would you be
That's
able
what
to-
I'm thinking.
Yeah, would you be able to do anything about it if it was non-conforming and somebody wanted to do something? I just don't know if there's
I
a
think it's a
purpose to
strange
question.
question because it's
You can't do anything about it one way or the other.
I mean, these things exist.
Non-conforming.
One of the things that Tara was bringing out is that we only have these 2 districts right now,
Right.
and they're very, very similar. But maybe we want to do something or other, say with the Route 16B loop or something or other, so that businesses would be permitted there And the businesses that exist there right now could expand within certain parameters that would be set up. Is that something that,
Is something where somebody would buy a piece of property on the top of the hill near Whitney's, won't mention that name, but, and, you know, make that into a business? Do you want that?
well, when you say the top of the hill, you mean
Her
a,
old house.
Yeah.
Oh,
okay, so I mean, it would depend. If-
yours, I think.
Your old house.
Yeah, someone said that when I saw my house.
That's a good idea.
hell of a
Yeah.
idea.
So it might be, for example, that you set it up with 16B, say 250 feet from the road on both sides or something like that. You know, right now,
I think the question would be more pertinent is, do we want to do that? Do we want to make 16B into a special zoning area for businesses?
Then let's ask that question.
That's what I think.
That's what I'm thinking.
First
Yeah, instead of the grandfather part. The grandfather part, we can't do anything about one way or the other.
You could say because there are already so many businesses on 16B.
Right. Do we want to, you know,
Now-
maybe the question should be, are you in favor of making 16B into a, you know,
An
economic, you
area
know,
Village district.
village district? Yeah. Thank you.
or it could be a
Some other commercial.
I mean, that's where we want to go with this, isn't it? I mean, that's what we want to
What we're
find
thinking
out.
about.
We want to find out if people are in favor of this. I mean, the grandfather thing, we can't do anything about one way or the other.
The
on
question
businesses.
before is, should there be new areas of town where businesses are permitted?
Very good.
There you go.
That's the question you're asking.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I think the
So
other
is eight
question is too,
necessary?
I think it should be striked, the other question. I think it's too confusing.
Maybe you could.
I don't think the answer's going to give you any information. You know, yes, no, 50%, 40%, what? What does it mean?
To
Nothing.
eliminate the whole
Yeah.
range.
I think we should, and it also gives more room for the comments for what
Yeah.
Larry
Yeah,
had.
So
we could
eliminate it.
eliminate it,
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Okay, I think we
right?
will.
I think 4 covers that.
Okay.
And maybe make 4 more specific. Are you in favor of, you know, doing 16A? I don't know if you want to go that
Well,
far, but,
actually,
I think we just keep
I
it
think
simple.
we're better
yeah,
off,
keep it simple.
if you start saying that, then the rumor's gonna go, oh, the planning board's
I
gonna
know,
change
I
that,
know.
blah, 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 blah.
Okay,
And-
yeah, I hear you,
you know,
I hear you.
And
Just put, should there be new areas of town where businesses are permitted?
I think that's fine the way it
And
is.
take some of these
Yeah.
others out,
Okay.
just throw them out.
Well, just this one. The second one.
Yeah.
What else do you want to throw out?
Throw that around.
No, that's good.
Yeah, just, the next one, the third one down, maybe you should keep it.
Yep.
More, I would say more than 3 employees, that should stay.
I just think as long as the questions make sense to people, that's all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's important.
Okay, and that's gonna give us actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more lines for
Yeah, excellent.
take up one.
Can we go back to the cover letter for a second?
Yep.
Where were we? On the last, well, we stopped, I don't know if we went through this, but I just have a question about the second paragraph. The master plan needs to reflect the desires of the people.
Should.
Yeah, I guess the word needs is strange to me.
Some of that I took straight out.
The word should.
Should reflect,
Mm.
Yes.
that would be the other.
Let's see here.
I think they should, yeah.
Should reflect.
Yeah.
Actually, it doesn't actually have to.
Purpose of the master, this is 674-2. The purpose of the master plan is to set down as clearly and practically as possible the best and most appropriate future development of the area under the jurisdiction of the planning board. To aid the board in designing ordinances that result in preserving and enhancing the unique quality of life and culture of New Hampshire, and to guide the board in the performance of its other duties in a manner that achieves the principles of smart growth, sound planning, and wise resource protection.
No, I should just copy that instead of getting there.
Well,
you kind of did.
that was, I was just
Yeah.
using that
No.
sentiment and trying to condense it down to the attention
The
span.
last,
that one
last
gives.
sentence in the first paragraph, you did do that. You pretty much
No, I took a lot of the phrases.
Yeah.
And that's what I was trying to do is to keep this as, you know,
You could just change that needs to read should if you.
um,
Then on the last, sorry,
the master plan reflects the desires of the people?
You could-
Yeah.
that would do
Yeah.
it. And not need or should.
yeah.
Reflects.
Then on the last paragraph, for the master plan to truly represent the people of Jackson, it should be it, is vitally important.
For that word's missing.
But I am going back to what Larry asked earlier about, should we mention in here just that we had a study done and just to build out, and that this is,
Part two?
yeah, this is
Part two.
just another thing we've been doing. This, since we're having communication, I think there's nothing wrong with adding a line saying this is what we did last year.
You could even bullet it, I was thinking, you know, there are several steps to this process. One, completed a build-out study, 2, the survey, 3, a public hearing, or something like that. That's about it.
That way the people know there's going to be a public hearing too.
Yeah, that could explain the process. Yeah. So it doesn't look like we're pulling this out of our.
Back pocket?
Then I've got 2 procedural questions on here. Now, last time we did the survey, Phil Davies was the one who compiled it for us. Did he say he would do it in for us?
He's definitely able to do it, which is why he added numbers. You know, for example, that first thing about do you own, rent, whatever, he put in all the numbers.
Yeah.
So it's easier to tally.
Exactly.
Okay. So, as long as we know who's. And then the second question is, who is this being sent to? And where do we get the addresses?
Okay, I just got all the addresses of all the property owners, whether they're absentee or not. And then just today, Karen sent me the email list of voters, and I'm going to merge the 2. I tried to get a quote for today from Minuteman Press for what they would charge for sending it out, you know, preparing the envelopes, getting the
Stamped,
envelopes properly
yeah.
addressed, getting them stamped, getting them stuffed and sent. I didn't get a price back from them, but I figured, you know, it's going to be an expensive process if we do it this way, because it's 45 cents a letter is probably what we're going to have to end up paying. I don't know if we can send it out less expensively. Maybe, I don't know how the tax bills go out, what kind of price they have.
I don't know if that's, ask Karen on that one.
And then what Phil Davies is recommending is that we include an envelope, a return envelope
Right.
to us, and granted, that
A stamped
would be-
return envelope.
That would be with a, not, I hope, a licked stamp on it. It would be, I think, with a printed stamp on it.
Right,
so
they
that
do that.
People who scanned it in or who put it in the Dropbox, we wouldn't be paying for those. We'd only pay for the ones that actually transmitted
Oh,
them
that's
by the
cool.
mail.
Now, can we do that?
Yes,
Yeah, Minuteman can do that.
Minutemen said they can do that.
They set it all up.
What are we talking about numbers? You know, what are we talking 1,000 or are we talking?
Probably over that.
It's over, yeah. over-
I would be surprised if it was under 2,000.
Oh, okay, it might be as many as 2,000.
I think it is.
That's probably a pretty good
And then
ballpark.
granted, you know, in addition, do we want to do the Xeroxing in-house? Granted, it's just Xeroxing, but it's 3 pages. It's the cover sheet and the front and back of the survey.
800 copies.
It's more expensive if we do it on colored paper, so probably we just want white. But I know they always say that if you've got something on colored paper, it shows up, people are less apt to forget about it.
Probably don't want to do it in-house because that's one hell of a burden on the girls.
Yeah.
2,000 copies and making sure it's, we're just getting our big pile of
It's probably
to them.
closer to 1,500 when
Yeah.
you all.
So
are
it would be
organized.
better just to have somebody like Minuteman do it.
Treasurer's not doing anything, she could do it.
Who's?
Who? Oh, he's in it.
That's helpful.
Yeah.
I didn't see your hand go up.
Not going up either.
So I know it's gonna be expensive, and I can't think of another way to do it.
I mean, I'd be glad to volunteer to stuff envelopes. I'll put
I
my,
have stuffed them.
I'll stuff envelopes. I'll help fill, tally out, but I mean,
Well, that's-
and we cut some costs. I mean, I'd
Yeah,
be glad
I
to help
think
out
it's
there.
fine.
Again, I'm not doing anything.
The tax office does get people into stuff envelopes.
I've
There's no reason
stuffed
why we couldn't
tags.
do
I
that.
was doing it with Karen earlier, stuff the envelopes.
Yeah, I mean, we can get it done.
Okay.
We
I mean-
get all these volunteers to help on voting. We just put out a call, anybody
Yeah,
wanna
come on, yeah, we can do that. That's a great idea.
Afternoon, and we're gonna stuff envelopes and send the survey out, and all help is needed.
Okay.
We could do that.
How much is that going to save us, though?
Yeah, it might save you some.
Oh, I didn't say it.
Anytime somebody has to handle something, it's,
Yeah.
it's big
Every
bucks.
time you
Unless they don't
touch
change
it,
it.
it lost.
I'm not studying on
So then,
I'll do yours for you.
Thank you.
even if we double your pay.
Hey, if you have it all spread out and set up, we do the tax bills in 2 hours one day.
Yeah, yep, that's a really good point. That's a very good idea.
So the expense then is gonna be the postage
Yep.
and the printing.
Get the printing and postage.
And get,
Well, the printer there does do 2 pages, I mean, it does both sides.
Yeah, it just takes forever.
Yeah.
And it maybe unnecessarily wears the town.
Yeah.
Okay,
And ink.
Ink.
Yeah, it's expensive.
yeah, Minimake.
But get a price, and,
Yeah.
get the price for just making the number of
Printing.
copies.
Yeah.
But then what about addresses?
I got all the addresses, and I've been going through to take out the duplicates, so that we won't be sending 2. It's easy to do because you can collate it by address,
right.
so that's easy.
You-
And then.
You can print out mailing labels too.
Yeah,
Stick-
but I was
stick
thinking
on.
of just giving it all to Minuteman Press on an Excel spreadsheet and
They'll do
letting
it.
them print
They'll do
the labels. Um,
Okay, labels, and then those get stuck on the envelope?
Or they can just run the envelopes right through, and that might be the cheapest way to go, then we don't need to use town envelopes maybe.
You can do as little or as much as you want. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just find out how much they charge for the whole
See
kit and
what it
caboodle, and then
costs.
we can see what we can shave off them.
Yeah.
And whatever we have to do manually, we can do manually.
And how do you feel about a color survey or white page?
White's fine.
Because you can do white.
Yeah, black and white.
Some of them probably fall in with me,
Yeah.
that's what's fun.
Okay, can't think of any other questions.
Does anyone remember what, from the last survey, what the response was like? Like, did we get back 70 or, it was huge? It
Yeah.
was 50. Yeah. Well, this is interest people. I mean,
Okay.
Usually whereas,
Questionnaires were mailed out with the final 2001 property tax bill to all Jackson property owners. In all, 387 questionnaires were returned by the closing date. Of this total, 45% were from year-round residents and 55% from seasonal residents.
See more out
so we got back 400?
They all 387.
They say if you get a 10% return, it's huge.
And 1,500.
what, 10%?
10%, they say you're not likely
Well,
to get.
400 was what? Was it
Well, it's
25?
out.
50 or
Around
50%?
It was 1,500% out.
Oh, 1,500% out. Oh, I was thinking of the population, 800.
So that's better than
33%.
20%.
Yeah, yeah, so we got 30% or so. Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
10% would be
then
low.
my
I
question
The
is-
very first one we did, we got about a 35%.
was gonna say, if we get 10%, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah,
Worth the money.
No.
Yeah, it wasn't worth it, but 35 is worth it.
But
But it's interesting.
Even if you only get a 10% return, I mean, I expect we'll do better than that, but it still gives you a pretty broad cross-section of opinion. And I think
Like most surveys, though, you get the people who are deeply interested in the topics where the mediocre, middle-of-the-road people won't. And that's really a bad survey, really, if it's statistically. If you get it's a survey where people who have a strong opinion respond. That's, technically that's not.
John, how else do you get?
You don't. I'm just saying that particular type of survey, you're going to have a lot of, usually you have both ends of the spectrum and nothing in the middle.
It's true, because if you're content, you just say one or the other.
I mean, that's what you're probably going to expect for data.
And the other thing that people always question is, you send it out to one household, the husband happens to feel one way and the wife feels the other way.
Grounds for divorce. Grounds for divorce, I would think.
Okay, you have addresses of property owners, but then for voting, each
everyone
one is-
got, because I remember we each got one. Debbie filled one out and I filled one out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't agree, I remember, on a few things.
What a surprise.
Well, that makes
Yeah.
it huge then.
Yeah, we did, of course we did, because
Everybody has to get one, yeah.
because we were both taxpayers.
Well, that's what I thought you were doing, because otherwise you could just done the real estate tax bill.
Yeah.
That's why I thought you were doing voters.
Because you're each a taxpayer.
We didn't get to,
Well,
I'm sure.
but aren't we gonna do that? Aren't we gonna send it to all the taxpayers?
I would think
I mean,
so.
The voters,
not
the voters and the
voters.
residents.
Aren't we using a voter list or no?
Yeah, the voter list will then give you.
Because you don't want to just send it to the household.
I suppose one thing you could do is include two in a mailing where there are two people listed on the tax bill.
I think that's hard to do for stuffing envelopes. I mean,
No,
It's
I mean, you
not
could
set.
do it, you could divide them into groups where there were one
Yeah.
person's name on the thing and two people's names. But, and some of them have family members and so on, a variety of people on it. I don't know.
It doesn't go out to registered voters, it goes out to
Taxpayers?
property owners.
what does?
The only reason,
Survey.
the only reason we were using the registered voter list, as I understood it, was to be able to include the people who were tenants, people who are renting, and wouldn't be listed on the property tax roll.
True.
So you're saying one per household?
Yes, it's what, I don't know what you did in the subsequent time. When we did the first one, it went out one to a household.
Well, that reduces the number considerably.
Yeah, but I mean, still, right now there are 1,100 properties or something or other, and then you add in, maybe there are 35 tenants or something or other. I don't know how many there are, but
So we're
it'll be under
closer to,
1,500.
right, we're closer to 1,000 than we are to 2,000 then.
Right.
Well, on my notes.
Do you think that's fair, though, to give it to two adults and only have one turned in?
Well, I mean, if people feel strongly about it, they could Xerox it and send it in separately.
Oh, that's true.
Make another copy, because I really disagree with that
Yeah.
guy who filled it out.
And I think.
How are we going to make that known that they could do that? Because I want to be fair about this. I really want people who have a voice should get a voice. I don't think if you're one householder, one homeowner, you only get one vote. I think there's two adults in there. They should get two votes.
Well,
You've got a good point.
Maybe one of the things we can put on there is if there's more than one person in the household, you may use a different color ink for different opinions or something.
Or feel free to make copies.
If they are so disposed, like if Kathleen and I each wanted to have an opinion, I could always make a copy of the bloody thing, and she could fill one out, and I could fill one out.
True, but we want to encourage that. Though. I want the people to know they can do that.
Or you could say,
If I get this thing here and say, "Oh my God, I got one," I got to fill that out.
if you would like an additional one, we'll mail you one.
Yes. If you want, two opinions, make a copy of it.
Yeah, I
Or you
just
could
want.
say, or if you'd like an additional copy, please contact us.
Contact the
For-
office
yeah.
and they'll
For-
send
If they don't
Make it
want to
available.
make a copy, you can just give them an option.
Make it available.
Do you want to say that in the cover letter?
Or something.
That might be the cover letter, be the place
Yes.
to put that.
But P.S. at the bottom, people
No?
what's that PS down here?
PS?
I mean, that would draw their attention to
Yeah, but literally, down the bottom here, put for additional,
But what if somebody makes 50 copies now?
They gotta put their thumbprint on it.
Exactly. I mean, that's, that's the other side of it.
If you
I
want
think someone
another
will.
copy,
Yeah, like B would probably want one for two for her house.
Because this is only an opinion. You know, John.
You're filling it out yourself.
You think alike, they think alike.
no.
John, this is only an opinion. I don't think people are gonna fill out 10, as long as they get their opinion 10 times.
Because you're gonna open it up and see, oh God, this envelope's got 10 in here, so.
Well, I just think in the spirit of things, if we're sending out one for a family, like a tax bill, just giving them the options, like if you want additional one, so be it.
Because if you send my household just one, there's gonna be somebody very.
I know, our house is a little it's bad.
Right. Because my, you know,
But I just want to make sure that they know they can get another
Another
copy.
copy if they want.
That's why I like the
Seriously,
color.
they
I
want
like
to
the
make a
color
copy.
because now they can't make 50 copies unless they're going to buy their own ream of colored paper.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
if they scan it in and send it in, it might not.
You know.
I don't think anyone's going to really conspire to make
I'm not trying to have a conspiracy thing either, but I just want everybody to have an opportunity to get and be, have a voice. I don't think just a single homeowner should have one voice.
You're right.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I think if I filled it out, my wife would be insulted, and as well she should be, because, you know.
Well, how difficult would it be to just, when you've got the taxpayer, and so if you have and when you meld the two lists together, you're gonna get a property.
Person.
Ken and Sarah Kimball own this property, and Sarah's a taxpayer, Ken's it.
Put two.
And so they put, the envelope goes in the pot for two. And
Yeah,
you
you
just
could do that.
separate them out, and it just so it's either.
And do the best we
one or
can.
two.
Do the best we
Do the best
can.
you can.
So you're saying put in 2 pages
If
of
you
survey
can.
for the people who have
Tax
2
bill.
households.
Right, two household members who are taxpayers.
And still put down.
And
the
voters.
bottom.
And voters.
Yeah, and still put
Right,
down
that's
the
what I
bottom,
meant,
like
voters.
John was saying,
Voters.
if there's an additional taxpayer in the household,
Or
send it.
taxpayer
renter.
voter.
Or renter.
Like a
Or
grandfather
renter.
living additional, whatever.
You know,
Could be a renter.
Yeah, please ask for another copy at the town office.
Call.
Or call town office for another additional copy, yeah.
Or you,
Oh, but then they aren't gonna send it, it's just too much work.
then you.
But then I'm just being the devil.
John, you're afraid somebody's gonna come in and ballot stuff, you know, like, they fill out 100 of them.
Stuff the ballots.
But yeah, raise the selectmen's pay.
I'm just gonna.
I got my copies already made. They're making them right now.
I just want to raise the question as devil's advocate is that what's wrong if we just put one per household, and how many households are really going to do 2? Each person's going to
Yeah.
fill out their own.
That's my thought.
It's just that it seems like that's more work and more papers, more printing
And more
for
kids.
a small percentage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't. I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, I'm-
Let them know, I'll get it.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and we could say if additional household member wants to fill out a survey, please
Make a
call
copy.
the town.
Please feel free to make a copy or ask the office, and they'll mail you another one.
Feel free to make a copy.
Or ask the
call it
office
up, yeah.
for it, just in case, a lot of people don't have.
Put the onus on them.
Yeah, just make it easy. Either or.
Right.
That's my feeling. It's just
That's a
to
better
print one.
one per annum, okay.
Here's what it is.
Yeah.
What he said.
I didn't realize I was opening a hornet's nest by bringing up that one little detail.
Well, hey, this is-
It always happens. It always happens.
But it's true, I know if I got one copy, Gabby would be very upset that I filled it out, you know, and as well. she
Don't
should.
fill it out. Leave it her.
You can do it together as a date night.
Yeah, that would work.
I did have one other
Sounds like
question,
fight
and
night.
I don't know if it belongs in the survey or not. Looking at the future, which we should be doing as planning board members, I was thinking about, we really need to address having a sewer treatment center here in town, because up at the lodge in Jackson, it smells off of Eagle Mountain House in the winter. It's definitely brown going into the river. Is there something we need to bring up to the taxpayers that we need to start thinking along these lines? What's their opinion on it? Or do you think we're opening up a whole can that we don't need to open up?
I think it's something we should think about
Sure.
as a board,
And then
first of all, because for one, since the Thornhill has been rebuilt, Ibby and Jim were friends of mine, and on 3 occasions over the years, I hated to do it, but I had to call them up and just say, you gotta do something. We can't breathe. The smell was so bad, and it was leaching out of the ground. And the reality is, these are passed by engineers, but when you have that many people all at once taking a shower in the morning, and I don't care if it's the Wentworth, the Eagle, boy, it'll, I haven't had any problem in a while. They did something else finally to, work on it, but it is going to be a problem here in town with big inches. But asking about a sewage treatment plant.
Well, that's the only other way it's going to be.
You'd almost have to have information out there, because as soon as you say sewage treatment plant,
Well, I understand that.
I bet you get 100% no.
I know, it's the wording of having to say it. I understand that.
How do you word that?
And part of it's an education process, people aren't aware.
But it's a good point.
Well, I don't think it belongs in the survey, but
No.
it's something we should.
Okay, then we can discuss it later. I just was wondering if it should be in here or not in here, but if you don't think it should be. I had a customer in the store, and she was talking about Vero Beach, Florida, okay? And she said she had lived down there for a long time, and she said she went down there again. The waterways are all polluted. They have these adult communities, the golf courses have all infiltrated, with all their chemicals and everything that's gone into the water, which eventually goes back to the streams and the rivers, and they're ruined. And that's why I'm looking into the future. Are we ruining our ground here, and should we think about doing something about it? That was my only
That should
comment.
be probably part of the master plan in the long run to examine opportunities for improved septic and some sort of septic system that's for the village or something like that.
That's starting there.
Then it would be part of our the public hearing, that we would be bringing it out to people and acquainting them with the whole concept.
Public conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you would also, I think the first step you need is to set up some sort of test well type of evaluation of just what the situation is.
Baseline data.
When Wentworth Hall, the subdivision, was being planned, I was chairman of the planning board, and I did extensive studies with colleges in the southern part of the state. It would have been less expensive for them to put in a sewage treatment plant that looked like a New England cottage. The water was pure enough, could have been done pure enough to put into the Wildcat River. Would have been less expensive than putting in all the individual
Septic
pump
systems.
systems that they did. And
For a developer, that makes sense.
I tried to, and it would have served the entire village district.
Why wasn't it accepted?
Using the word
Because as soon as you say the word sewage treatment plant, everyone goes, but it's something that if we ever in Jackson discuss higher density residential properties, then it would be an education process that would
Cluster homes or
give
something.
people a very clear, and Sarah's speaking about, because, by the way, under Wentworth is the town aquifer. It's like a teacup broken, right? And that would be the way to show people, say, look, here's the test wells, here's where it's going, here's what's happening to it, and here's a better way.
Right.
But that's long range, I think.
It's long.
And to do that kind of evaluation study, engineering study, test wells, and that's going to be an expense, which you would need to do in the town.
And I think one of the things people need to hear, I remember somebody, I don't know who it was, said that they considered the village of Jackson kind of like a teacup. And all the water flows down into it. And then somebody up at the top, say at Carter Notch Road, drills down 600 or 700 feet. Well, they are located 600 or 700 feet, let's say, above the village. And so they're drilling down into the village area where other people's septics are. And people need to be savvy about that. You know, if our well
Yeah,
goes down
but it's not
200
like it's
feet
a-
and we're only 200 feet above the village, are we drinking somebody else's septic? Because,
Well, but you have the horizontal distance there, and there's.
sure,
But let me tell you, they have put many septic systems in this village that didn't even exist. It used to all go into the well.
sure.
So I'll tell you, they have.
It's a lot better than it used to be,
It's
yes.
better than
Oh,
you
God,
said.
yes.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the hotel used to drain right into the river, and when the
Oh.
spring came, it washed it out.
That's
I used to clean them out at Christmas Farm Inn, I know.
When-
Honey dipping.
It wasn't too long ago, Eagle Mountain House discharged directly into the Wildcat
Yeah.
River.
A lot of,
Not too long ago.
Lovely.
just a number of years ago, I helped someone, and I won't say who, but they had a pipe running from a large house.
Go look at that in the
Up
wintertime,
where you
there's
live.
snow out there in the wintertime.
And it went right into the Wildcat, and he knew it all these years, and he dug himself up, and I helped him dig a septic system, several years ago. And I helped him dig a hole, so that it wouldn't any longer run into the Wildcat. And that was only within the last 15 years. There probably still are some camps up there
Right.
that do.
All right, what else we got?
I'm sorry, I didn't even go away from this, I just didn't know whether it needed to be put on there or not, but I think it's
Yeah.
something we need.
But it's a good
Address.
issue
Oh, yeah.
to address, and
Yes,
we need to think about it.
yeah.
Okay.
So on the cover letter, we're gonna add bullets of just saying this is the past, present, future. This is what we did. This is what's gonna happen. Then we're gonna have a hearing. Do you want to put that on there? You wrote the letter, right?
I wrote the first draft, yeah.
Yeah, we ended up saying that we were going to list as bulleted the build-out survey. Or
This is part of.
I just think it's good to give people like a big picture of what occurred and what's happening.
Yeah.
And to make them realize they're part of the process.
For.
Yeah.
Yeah, the process, the end result.
Yeah,
There'll be a hearing.
that's a good idea.
And also, we're gonna find something about if you need additional copies.
And how you feel about a water treatment facility?
Well, we ended up saying that, feel free to make a copy or call.
Is that gonna be on the cover?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And we'll have drop-off spots in the town hall.
I asked Julie about that, and she said they'll be glad to set up a box.
Do we want to put that in the letter too, that they know
That is in
that?
the back,
Or is that in the,
It's actually on the bottom
On
of
the
the
survey?
survey, but
and it's also in the letter.
what she's proposing is that it would be where the tax map is. Is that, do you think people, maybe we need some sort of a sign indicating that?
Is this because we're not gonna have self-stamped envelopes? Is
We
that-
are.
Yeah, that's what I thought, so
there's
that,
some option.
right.
Yeah, just that people who are local might choose to drop it off if they have to come in.
And if they don't go through the mail, they.
Yeah, we save the
charge.
money.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the
Encourage
building is
it.
only open when there's somebody in the office, right?
Right.
So why don't you just have it in the office so they have to come, oh, where do I put the questionnaire? I'll put it right there.
Okay,
Oh, no, they'll take care
So
of it.
that,
Yeah, I
so
won't
that
get
would
it.
be-
that way you've got a little supervision,
okay.
but minimal intrusion.
Yeah, most people don't drop in the mailboxes, had to pick up their mail anyway.
Yep.
All right, anything else on that topic? What else do we- sorry, agenda.
I'm with you.
I've been here since 3:30, so
Okay.
it's been 5.5 hours of meetings. I'm kind of pushed.
Okay.
That's why you're gonna get the raise.
That's right. Kicking the pants.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the subdivision possible changes to that. And Betsy had sent out the 15-page,
Do you have copies? I didn't print that out.
there are copies here, yes.
Ask them, oh, okay, good.
I have a bunch of copies. So here, ladies, was copied from Betsy's email. And it is, there are not very many changes, and most of them are almost administrative type changes.
We have one more.
One more we need. No?
That's
right.
So
I'll make some
I
copies of this tomorrow.
spent
Okay.
an hour or so this afternoon reading through it carefully because I hadn't read them for years. And I think it's a good exercise if you don't mind. Just don't do it right before bedtime.
Not stimulating reading?
So is this the entire subdivision regulation?
Yes.
Yes,
Oh,
except for
oh,
the,
so this is what I was asking for, was a copy of? Yeah, okay, thank you.
You got it.
it wasn't
telling you,
tabled,
that's
so
what
we
it
didn't
was.
put that
Yeah,
in.
okay, thanks.
Because we, no changes on the table of contents, so I didn't include it.
Okay, so it,
Need you to print another number.
and as I read through it, I didn't find any problems with any of the changes and,
At the, one of the early pages, maybe page 2, where it talks about dry hydrant and fire pond,
right.
I didn't put in those definitions because I don't really know exactly how they would want them defined, and it was Jay Henry that asked that we include them. I figured
Most
out.
of the dry hydrants are gone.
Well, Jay Henry asked that we include those two things, so I figured I'll get from Jay how he wants to
And the fire
define.
pond, okay.
Yep. So that's, those two are missing.
Yeah.
A fire pond definition, you're gonna take right out of the yard sales. And that's what he's gonna do. He's gonna hand you the definition of that.
Okay.
And that will be any pond that the fire chief determines will be used as a fire.
So if people haven't